Effective communication is the cornerstone of success in every area of life, personal, professional, and beyond. Yet it's a skill many of us take for granted or fail to develop fully. The way we communicate shapes our relationships, influences how others perceive us, and determines the quality of our interactions. But communication isn't just about speaking clearly or getting our message across, it's about understanding others, listening actively, and knowing how to respond in ways that foster connection, trust, and mutual respect. In this book, we'll explore the art of effective communication and how mastering it can unlock opportunities you never thought possible. Whether you're navigating complex conversations with a colleague, strengthening your relationships with family and friends, or learning how to present yourself confidently in any setting, the principles we'll cover will equip you with the tools to communicate with purpose, clarity, and influence. What you'll discover here is not just theoretical knowledge, but practical, actionable advice you can start applying right away. You'll learn how to handle difficult conversations without escalating conflict, how to listen in a way that makes people feel valued, and how to speak with confidence without coming across as arrogant. The goal is simple: to help you understand the impact of your words and actions and give you the strategies to use them to create better outcomes in every interaction. By the time you finish this book, you'll have a deeper understanding of how to communicate effectively with anyone in any situation. This isn't just about improving your speech or perfecting your body language. It's about mastering a skill that will open doors, strengthen your relationships, and ultimately drive your success. The principles you'll learn will give you a competitive edge in the workplace, enhance your personal life, and lead to stronger, more meaningful connections with those around you. Communication is the key to achieving lasting success, and the journey to mastering it starts here. Every conversation is an opportunity, and by unlocking the secrets of effective communication, you'll be well on your way to building a life of connection, growth, and achievement. Chapter 1: Changing how you think about communication. When you think about communication, what comes to mind? Most people probably think about having conversations, making small talk, or exchanging information. But the truth is, communication is much more than just talking. It's the way we connect with the world around us, the way we form relationships, the way we solve problems, and even the way we shape our lives. How you communicate directly impacts the relationships you build, the career you develop, and the quality of your life. Yet so many of us go through life thinking communication is just about sending messages back and forth. We speak to be heard, we listen to respond, but rarely do we stop and think about the deeper purpose behind it all. Changing how you think about communication can be the key to transforming not just your conversations, but your entire approach to connecting with others. Think about it for a second. Every time you communicate with someone, you're creating a moment that could strengthen or weaken your relationship, whether it's with a friend, a family member, a colleague, or even a stranger. Your words, actions, and the way you carry yourself all have an impact. Communication isn't just about exchanging information, it's about creating bonds, understanding others, and expressing yourself clearly. When you start looking at communication this way, everything changes. You stop seeing communication as something you do and start seeing it as a tool that builds something. You begin to understand that your words, tone, body language, and even your silence are powerful tools for creating connection, trust, and understanding. When you speak with intention, every conversation becomes an opportunity for deeper connection and growth. Consider how many times you've had a conversation where you walked away thinking, I didn't really connect with that person, or I didn't get my point across clearly. Or maybe you've had times when someone else's words made you feel dismissed, misunderstood, or disconnected. We all have these experiences, but often we don't take the time to figure out why, what went wrong, and more importantly, how can we prevent it from happening again? Changing how you think about communication is the first step in becoming more effective in your conversations. It's about realizing that communication is not a one-way street. It's not just about getting your own point across. It's about creating a space where both sides feel heard, understood, and respected. Effective communication is a partnership between two or more people, and it requires active involvement, awareness, and care from everyone involved in every conversation. The goal should not just be to talk, but to connect. Think about the people you enjoy talking to the most. They aren't necessarily the ones who talk the most or dominate the conversation. In fact, the best communicators are often the ones who listen the most. They know that communication isn't just about sharing your own thoughts, it's about understanding others and building a relationship of trust and respect. When you begin to shift your mindset to this new way of thinking about communication, you'll start to see conversations in a different light. Instead of focusing on what you need to say, you'll start focusing on how you can connect with the other person. What do they need to hear from you? What's the best way to make sure your words are clear and kind? How can you truly understand their perspective and make them feel heard? This shift in thinking doesn't just make your conversations more enjoyable, it also makes them more effective. You'll find that people are more willing to engage with you, more willing to listen, and more willing to open up. They'll feel respected and valued in a way that encourages them to reciprocate the same level of care and understanding. The first step in changing how you communicate is to ask yourself one important question: what do I want to achieve with this conversation? If your goal is to simply be heard, you'll likely only focus on making sure you say everything you need to say. But if your goal is to connect with the other person, you'll start thinking about how to create a back and forth exchange where both parties are engaged, and the conversation flows naturally. Once you start to look at communication through this lens, you'll realize that every conversation has the potential to be more than just a simple exchange of words. It can be an opportunity to strengthen a relationship, to build trust, or to solve a problem together. And in doing so, you'll be able to make the most out of every conversation, whether it's with a friend, a colleague, or someone you just met. Think about the last time you had a meaningful conversation with someone. It wasn't just about getting through a list of things you needed to discuss. It was about connecting. Maybe you laughed together, shared an experience, or worked through a challenge as a team. That's the power of communication done right now. Imagine how many more of those moments you could create if you approached every conversation with this new mindset. You would have better relationships with the people you care about more success at work, and greater influence over time. Your conversations would no longer feel like a chore or a task, but an opportunity to connect on a deeper level. But here's the catch: changing how you think about communication is not an overnight process. It takes time, patience, and practice. You can't expect to go from thinking of communication as just talking to seeing it as a powerful tool for connection without putting in the effort. But that's okay, because once you start making this shift, you'll notice the difference almost immediately. As you move forward, start paying attention to how you communicate. Are you really listening when others speak, or are you just waiting for your turn to talk? Are you being intentional about the words you choose, or are you just saying whatever comes to mind? Are you focused on connecting with the other person, or are you more concerned about getting your point across? By becoming more mindful of how you communicate, you can begin to practice being a better communicator, not just in the big moments, but in the everyday conversations that shape your relationships and your life. You'll find that the more you practice, the easier it gets, and before long you'll have developed a new approach to communication that sets you up for success in every area of your life. Changing the way you think about communication isn't just about learning a new skill or technique. It's about adopting a mindset that transforms how you engage with others. It's about realizing that every conversation has the potential to be meaningful and impactful if you approach it with care, awareness, and a desire to truly connect. When you begin to communicate with this intention, you'll see how much more rewarding and successful your interactions will be. Ultimately, the way you think about communication affects everything. If you see it as an opportunity to connect, listen, and build trust, you'll find that your relationships improve, your career thrives, and your life becomes richer and more fulfilling. So as you move forward, start to shift your mindset, begin to see communication as the powerful tool it truly is, and with time you'll become a more effective, empathetic, and confident communicator. Ader Chapter 2: Listening to understand, not just respond. When we talk about listening, most people think of it as simply hearing the words someone says. It's an automatic response, a reflex. You hear sounds, you recognize words, and maybe you respond. But the truth is, listening is much more than that. Listening is an art, and the way we listen can completely change the outcome of any conversation. The way most people approach listening is with one goal in mind: to wait for their turn to speak. You listen just enough to catch the main points, then you jump in with your own thoughts. This kind of listening is transactional. You're not truly engaged in what the other person is saying. You're thinking about your own response while they're still talking. This is why so many conversations feel shallow and why misunderstandings happen so often. It's not because we don't care, but because we're not fully listening. Real listening, the kind that leads to better understanding and stronger relationships, is about being present. It's about focusing entirely on the person in front of you. It's not just about hearing their words, but also understanding the meaning behind them. When you listen to understand, you're not just waiting for your chance to talk, you're actually engaging with the person's thoughts and feelings. This is what makes a conversation meaningful. Imagine talking to someone who isn't just hearing your words, but is actively trying to understand the message you're trying to convey. They don't interrupt or finish your sentences for you. Instead, they lean and make eye contact and nod, showing they're really hearing you. Doesn't that make you feel like you matter, like what you're saying is important? That's the power of listening with intention. Listening to understand requires a shift in mindset. It means setting aside your own thoughts, opinions, and judgments long enough to fully take in what the other person is saying. You stop thinking about how you'll respond and start focusing on their words, their emotions, their perspective. This is harder than it sounds, especially in a world where distractions are everywhere. But when you make the effort to truly listen, you're telling the other person, I care about what you have to say. This alone can change the entire tone of a conversation. You don't need to be an expert to listen better. It's a skill that anyone can develop, and it starts with being more mindful of your own tendencies. Do you find yourself interrupting? Do you finish other people's sentences? Do you zone out when someone is talking for a long time? These are all signs that you may be listening to respond, not to understand. The first step is to become aware of how you listen. Think about the last conversation you had where you felt truly heard. Maybe it was with a close friend, a family member, or even a colleague. How did that make you feel? Likely it made you feel valued and respected, and the truth is, people respond well to that kind of attention. When you truly listen to someone, they're more likely to trust you, share more openly, and engage more deeply in the conversation. One of the most powerful things you can do to improve your listening skills is to remove distractions. In today's world, distractions are everywhere: phones, computers, noise, thought about the future. It's easy to be physically present in a conversation but mentally elsewhere. When you're having a conversation with someone, put down your phone, turn off the television, and focus completely on the person in front of you. This simple act shows that you care about what they're saying. Sometimes listening means giving someone the space. Uncertainty or disinterest. Confident people stand tall, make eye contact, and use gestures to emphasize their points. Even small things like uncrossing your arms or leaning slightly forward can make a big difference in how your message is received. When you're confident, you're more likely to engage with others. You'll notice that people are more likely to respond positively when you're open, approachable, and present in the moment. Another element of confidence is not being afraid to pause. It's easy to fill every silence with words, but sometimes taking a moment to pause can show that you're composed and in control. Pauses allow you to collect your thoughts, emphasize a point, or simply give your listener time to absorb what you've said. A well-timed pause can create a sense of anticipation, drawing people in and making them pay closer attention to your words. Don't be afraid of a little silence. Sometimes it's the most powerful part of a conversation. The way you prepare for conversations can also affect your confidence. If you know you're going into a discussion where you'll need to present ideas or address a difficult topic, preparation is key. Think about what you want to say ahead of time and try to anticipate any questions or objections that might come up. This doesn't mean you need to script every word, but having a general sense of the direction you want the conversation to take will make you feel more at ease. The more prepared you are, the more confidently you can speak, knowing that you're not caught off guard by what's being said. Confidence doesn't come from pretending to be perfect or always having the right answer. It comes from accepting that mistakes happen and being okay with them. When you make a mistake or say something wrong, it's okay to admit it. A confident communicator doesn't crumble under pressure. They acknowledge their mistakes and move forward. This ability to accept imperfection actually makes you more relatable and trustworthy. People appreciate someone who is genuine and willing to admit when they're wrong rather than someone who tries to cover up mistakes or deny them. When you speak with confidence, you naturally build credibility. People are more likely to trust you and take you seriously. When you speak in a calm, assured manner, you might not always be the most knowledgeable person in the room, but when you communicate with confidence, people will listen. Confidence in communication is about trusting your own voice and allowing your message to be heard. Whether you're sharing an opinion or providing information, confidence helps others believe in your ideas. There's also the idea of finding your authentic voice. This is a huge part of speaking confidently. You might think of confidence as something that comes from mimicking others, maybe a colleague who always speaks with authority or a public figure who never seems nervous, but the truth is real confidence comes when you stop trying to imitate someone else and just embrace your own style. Your voice is unique to you, and that's where your true confidence lies. When you speak in a way that feels natural to you, your confidence will shine through and your message will resonate more. Sometimes people get the idea that confidence means being assertive all the time, always pushing your ideas, always standing your ground, but confident communication doesn't mean being aggressive or domineering. It's about assertiveness without aggression, knowing what you want to say and expressing it clearly while still respecting others' viewpoints. It's about stating your thoughts with assurance without overpowering others in the conversation. Confidence isn't about winning an argument or proving someone else wrong. It's about expressing your thoughts with clarity and conviction while still being open to dialogue. If you struggle with confidence in certain situations, such as public speaking or giving presentations, you can improve over time by practicing. Start small, whether it's speaking up in a meeting or voicing your opinion in a casual conversation. Gradually, these small acts of speaking confidently will build up, and you'll notice that you're more comfortable in higher stakes situations as well. Public speaking, for example, is something most people find intimidating at first, but it becomes easier with repetition. The more you put yourself in situations where you need to speak, the more your confidence will grow. You can also work on confidence in nonverbal communication. Much of how you communicate is not through your words, but through your body language, facial expressions, and the energy you bring to the room. Even the way you walk into a room or how you make eye contact can communicate confidence. It's not just about what you say, it's about how you present yourself. The more you are mindful of these nonverbal cues, the more confident you'll appear to others, which in turn will make you feel more confident inside. Confidence in communication isn't something that comes automatically for everyone, and it's not something that can be forced, but the more you practice, the easier it becomes. Confidence grows with each interaction. It comes from feeling comfortable in your own skin and embracing your own voice. It's about trusting that what you have to say matters and that you deserve to be heard. You don't have to be the loudest person in the room or the one who has all the answers. True confidence comes from owning your words, expressing them clearly, and allowing others to hear your thoughts without fear or hesitation. Over time, as you continue to practice confident communication, you'll start to see it transform your relationships both personally and professionally. People will respond to you differently when they sense your confidence. You'll be able to navigate tough conversations with ease, express your ideas more clearly, and connect with others on a deeper level. Confidence, when expressed authentically, becomes a powerful tool for creating stronger, more meaningful connections. And the more confident you are in your ability to communicate, the more you'll see your life and relationships thrive. Chapter 10: Communicating in the Digital World. Communication in the digital world is a whole different ballgame. Gone are the days when face-to-face conversations were the norm. Today, much of our communication happens through text messages, emails, social media posts, and even video calls. While these platforms offer us incredible opportunities to connect with others, they also come with their own set of challenges. Understanding how to communicate effectively in this digital space is essential, and it requires a shift in mindset and approach. One of the biggest differences between in-person communication and digital communication is the lack of nonverbal cues. In face-to-face interactions, we rely on body language, facial expressions, and tone of voice to gauge how someone is feeling or what they truly mean. In digital communication, all of that is stripped away. A simple message or email can be misinterpreted because there's no way to tell if the other person is smiling, laughing, or rolling their eyes. This can lead to misunderstandings, conflicts, and frustration, especially when the tone or intent behind a message isn't clear. The key to effective communication in the digital world is to be extra careful with your words. Without the benefit of facial expressions or body language, the way you phrase things becomes even more important. What might come across as casual or lighthearted in person can sound rude or dismissive in a text or email. This is why it's so important to think about the tone of your messages before hitting send. Ask yourself, how might this be received by the person on the other end? Am I being clear and respectful? Do my words reflect my true intent? Taking a moment to reflect on your message before sending it can save you from unnecessary misunderstandings. It's also easy to forget that digital communication doesn't allow for the same back and forth rhythm that in-person conversations do. When you're having a conversation face-to-face, there's a natural flow. You speak, they respond, and the back and forth continues. In the digital world, however, especially when you're dealing with emails or text messages, there's often a delay. This can lead to frustration, especially if you're waiting for a response or if the other person takes a long time to reply. One of the most important things you can do is be patient and understanding. Remember that the other person might not be sitting right in front of their phone or computer, and their response might take a little longer than you'd like. In addition to patience, clarity is paramount in digital communication. Without the opportunity to ask questions on the spot or clarify misunderstandings immediately, it's easy for your message to get lost in translation. Be as clear and concise as possible and avoid overcomplicating things. It's tempting to include lots of details or explanations, but the more you write, the more potential there is for confusion. Stick to the main points and ensure that your message is easy to understand. If you're making a request or giving instructions, break things down step by step to avoid any ambiguity. Another challenge with digital communication is the risk of misinterpretation. When you don't have the full range of vocal tone and body language to support your message, it's easy for someone to misread your words. For example, a short, blunt message can come across as rude or impatient, even if that wasn't your intention. Emojis, GIFs, and punctuation marks can help convey tone, but they can't always capture the full meaning. If you're ever in doubt, it's worth considering whether a phone call or video chat might be a better option for a more sensitive or important conversation. Sometimes it's easier to understand someone's tone or intent when you can hear their voice or see their face. The digital world also creates an environment where communication is often asynchronous. In other words, you may not always be communicating in real time, and that can create problems, especially when you're trying to coordinate with others. For example, in a work setting, emails or project management platforms might not provide instant responses, which can slow things down. It's essential to manage expectations in this space. If you need an immediate response, make sure to note that in your message use phrases like "please reply as soon as possible" or "looking forward to your response today." Conversely, if you don't need an immediate reply, let the other person know that they can take their time to respond. Context plays a significant role in digital communication, and without it, things can get easily misunderstood. When you're sending a message or email, be aware of the context. Text in which you're communicating. Are you responding to a work email? Are you having a casual chat with a friend? The context will dictate the tone and level of formality. Your message should have a message to a colleague might require a more formal tone, while a text to a close friend can be more relaxed and informal. Misjudging the tone of your message based on context can lead to awkward situations or confusion in professional settings. It's often better to on the side of caution and use a more formal tone. In personal settings, you can be more informal, but even then consider how your words might be received. One major advantage of digital communication, though, is that it gives you time to think. In a face-to-face conversation, you often have to respond quickly, which can sometimes lead to missteps or regrets. In digital communication, you have the luxury of taking a moment to consider your response. If you're feeling emotional, it can be helpful to step away for a while before responding to an email or text message. This pause gives you the chance to think more clearly and respond in a way that you won't regret later. It's also important to take your time to process information before replying. If you're Reading a message that triggers an emotional reaction, give yourself permission to pause and reflect before firing back. A response timing is also crucial in the digital world. Some messages are time-sensitive, and responding in a timely manner can prevent unnecessary delays or complications in work settings. For instance, delayed responses can slow down